ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it is that time of the week, Wednesday, January 29th, 2025, for Tea Time Wagers with good friend and colleague, Mr. Brady Kannon. Fresh off, Harry, did you do your English homework? 110-1 last week. Brady's now got 2 in 2025. He sent me Matsuyama prior to that. And the guy's been cooking with Crisco. If you've been following us, this is our 3rd year of shows. Last year, man, bridesmaid. And then finally, starting to get into that winner's circle. And you think he said batting about 313? Brady, that's the Hall of Fame. I'll give you the gold jacket now. Let's go. Get you to Canton or wherever the PGA Hall of Fame is. But first and foremost, a shout out to Mr. Elijah Cox, the best in the business. Couldn't have done this without you, my brother. Thank you so much for all you do. WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download the app. It's free. I promise you, myself, Travis, Zach, Amber, Holly, Jay, Barry, Guy, we're going to take good care of you in 2025 as we have started here at East Coast Sports. The buy, hold, sell, or yell segment about 3 days a week, where we're taking futures, where they started, where their highs, their lows, and where they are today. And we will ask you, are you going to buy, hold, sell, or yell? So a little spin there with wagerwire.com. There we go. We just had a power surge here. I apologize. So Viva Tequila Seltzer. Go grab 6 flavors, 2 new flavors. Lemon, and the East Coast is Cuckoo for coconut. And last but never least, Atlanta Steaks and Seafood. Head on over to Facebook. Introduce yourself to Mr. Terry Smith. While you're there, head on over to Atlanta Steaks and Seafood. Steaks, chops, appetizers, wine, you name it, he's got it. Use the promo code SHRIMP. That's right, shrimp. Get a 2-pound bag of shrimp free. Cleaned, deveined, the big ones, the 1620s. Take a look at a subscription plan for set it and forget it. Pick a box, whatever your flavor of the month is, and every 30 days, Terry will deliver it. So enough of me blabbering. Let's bring in the star of the show, Mr. Brady Kannon.
Mr. Dawson, how are you, my friend? Good to be back. Yeah, quite a roll as of late. It feels good. You just kind of the bottom's going to drop out here in a minute. You think it is. I mean, you've been in this business long enough. You get real hot and then you tend to get cold for a minute. I hope we stay hot for a while here. You talk about batting 313. I did the math on that last night. It started in August with Hideki Matsuyama. We hit him at the FedEx St. Jude Championship in Memphis. And then in October, we hit Kevin Yu at the Sanderson Farms. And then like you said, runner-up, bridesmaid. We had 3 runner-ups in a row in November, and then broke through with Scotty in December. And it's really kind of carried on from there. Hideki Matsuyama in January, and here last week, Harris English in January as well. So yeah, it's been a pretty darn good run, especially since August, the last, 4 or 5 months or so. And we just hope to keep it rolling. You bat 313 the rest of your life, you'll be just fine.
I talk about one and dones. I talk about historic beats, whatever you want to call them. And I've said this story a million times, Brady. A handful of years ago, before Scotty became Scotty, I had Scotty Scheffler in my one and done that week, and he shoots a -9 and was the first round leader. And I'm like, all right, got my chest out here, I'm feeling real good. Well, I was working and I was out of the office for Friday. And I hit the app and I'm scrolling and these are just for show. I'm blind. I'm Batman and I'm looking for Scotty. He goes from first round leader -9 to missing the cut. Okay. And then, of course, he became Scotty Scheffler. So my one and done this week was Louis Oberg. What does he do? Wednesday, excuse me. He shoots the -9. Thursday, the winds were horrific. They ended up, suspending. And then Friday and Saturday, he gets sick and he shoots like a +12. So, it'll be interesting moving forward. It's bad luck. It's just bad luck. And I applauded Oberg for sticking it out. As I'm talking to my partner, I'm like, especially on Friday, I'm like, you know what? He's like 5 back. I don't even think we'll probably see him on Sunday and tap out, but that's part of the game, Brady.
Yeah, he hung in there for sure, under the weather. Yes, apparently he was ill. I don't know exactly what it was that he was battling, but it showed up in his game. And unfortunate because there was a ton of people backing. You were not alone, one and done, to win it outright, whatever. Oberg was the very most popular play. In fact, I know at our friends at BetMGM, Oberg was #1 in ticket count, #1 in handle, and was their very biggest liability last week. And, seeing all that, the triple play there, I was kind of glad that I was not on them, because oftentimes that's a red flag when they're just checkered across the board like that at the sports book. I can tell you this week, got the report just not long ago from my friends at BetMGM. Scotty Scheffler is checkered across the board here. Highest in ticket count at over 20% of the tickets to win it outright this week at Pebble Beach is Scotty Scheffler. #2 in ticket count, Justin Thomas, and it's very close, just 6.2% of the tickets on Thomas and 5.6% of the tickets on Colin Morikawa. So those are your top 3 in ticket count. Similar in highest handle, Scheffler at almost 30% of the handle, Justin Thomas at nearly 8% of the handle, and then Jason Day at just about 6% of the handle at BetMGM. And the 3 largest liabilities, Scotty Scheffler. Now, we saw Scotty Scheffler be the largest liability at BetMGM almost week in and week out every time he was in the tournament last year. And, he won a lot, as you know. So he beat up the books a little bit last year. #1 liability, Scheffler. #2, Justin Thomas. And this one's kind of interesting. Off of wrist surgery in the offseason, the 3rd biggest liability, Jordan Spieth, who is a prior winner here at Pebble Beach. I'd love to see him do well this week. I think he could, be a comeback player of the year type of guy if he has a good year this year.
I think I was watching Twitter earlier on the week or even on the weekend, and I think they hung like 100-1 number. Someone did early on that, and then some people started bouncing on it. The name alone, if you're just the average or golfer that wants a little skin in the game, you're like, Jordan Spieth, 100-1. It doesn't matter if he's playing at a Muni course or wherever he's playing. 100-1. People are running to sign me up. You talked about the return of Scotty. My headline: a world #1 returns to Pebble Beach. Will Scheffler remain a cut above the rest? I thought I'd put a little poem.
I see. I see.
I was doing some quick math before we got on. Saturday, February 1st. So my countdown, how I'm wired here. We got about the 10-week countdown to Magnolia Lane, right? February, March. Yeah, about 10 weeks, give or take how the math goes. So this is where the rubber meets the road here, Brady. This is the start where you want to start rounding into form, get your sea legs, get into shape. They hung a 3-1, 350, and they're not giving you anything with Scheffler here.
Wow. I didn't know it was that short. I haven't looked at my Masters
That
outright
was
board.
no, that was the opening at Pebble Beach. They
Oh,
were
Pebble.
hanging.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I thought you were referring to the Masters. I don't know. I want to say he's around 4-1 plus 450, something like that. And that's where the market's kind of gone here. I've seen anywhere from about plus 450 here locally at Circa. I think he's plus 495. I even saw closer to like 5.5 plus 550, but I think the consensus number is probably just a little lower than 5-1 right now on Scotty. And as usual, it's like nothing's changed. You know, there's a pretty big gap between him and the second and third choice. I think the second choice is McIlroy in the neighborhood of 10-1. And then you go to like Justin Thomas and Morikawa in the neighborhood of 14, 13, 16, you know, right in there. And then you go all the way to about 20 with Cantlay, 25 with Oberg and Sun J.M. So, you know, after Scotty, it ascends pretty quickly to the next choices. And personally, I mean, you know me, Jeff, I'm not afraid to lay that short price with Scotty. We did it at the Hero World Challenge. Now, again, that's only a field of 20 guys, but I took plus 225 and he won that, you know, fairly comfortably for the second year in a row. I think the year prior we had him at about 4-1. So I'm not really afraid of those short prices with Scotty. But I didn't want to do it this week because, first of all, Pebble's interesting. This is the second year in a row we've had a signature event at this course. Okay. Prior to that, it was always the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, a 3-course rotation. Monterey Peninsula Country Club was in the mix. It is no longer there. It's only Spyglass and Pebble now, a reduced field of 80 players. The amateurs only play on Thursday and Friday with these guys. It used to be that they played all the way through Saturday, and it was a 54-hole cut. You know, and you tune on the TV and all you saw was Ray Romano and Bill Murray. I didn't really like that version of Pebble. It's one of the most famous, greatest, you know, golf venues in the entire world. And I just wasn't really enjoying the golf. It was more of this celebrity party that you tuned in and watched. And, you know, as a golf fan and golf bettor, I wasn't really into that. So I welcome this change to the signature status where you get the big boys, you have less of the amateur party deal, you have less golf courses to deal with. They play Pebble 3 out of the 4 days and Spyglass once. Each of these guys will play Spyglass either on Thursday or Friday. But the point being here is guys like Scotty and Morikawa and Justin Thomas and Rory, all these guys that have been in the field the last couple of years because of the signature status, they never used to come here. So that's one reason I didn't want to land on them, because they aren't as familiar with this golf course as a lot of the other guys in the field are who have been coming here for years. And then, of course, with Scotty, you've got the cut, like you say, the hand issue. Is he fully recovered? I don't think he's been practicing a whole lot since Christmas anyway. Certainly had some recovery time involved there where he probably, you know, didn't put his hand on a golf club. Rory McIlroy, you know, kind of similar story here. Doesn't show up all that often at Pebble. And on Monday night was in that great TGL match with Tiger's team, you know, and got here late. So, you know, what's going on there with that situation? Justin Thomas was a guy I looked long and hard at because he's been playing really well. But again, not a whole lot of laps around this track, and I just don't know what to expect. So I went with long shots this week. I didn't land on a guy shorter than 55-1.
Yeah, and following social media, seeing a lot of Justin Thomas out there, a lot of Jason Day out there.
Yeah.
Before we get to your breakdown, your correlated courses and stuff, my eyes have flocked to 2, and one of them hasn't. I have no luck with him. He seems like a horse for this course, and that's Patrick Cantlay. Now, Cantlay, you know, he's almost like your board dog. He's not going to win. Hopefully he finishes top 3 or 5 there. But the other name that has gotten a little sexy, and I thought I saw him as high as 90-1, and that's Tom Hoagie Sandwich. What do you think of the Hoagie Meister this week?
Near and dear to my heart at Pebble Beach, because in 2022, I landed on him correctly at 66-1. So, Yeah, he absolutely fits the bill. A good friend of mine over in the UK, Dave Tyndall, is on Tom Hoagie this week, a very highly regarded golf tipster, in my opinion, and certainly around the golf space, is Mr. Tyndall, who was also on Harris English last week. So we were kind of patting each other on the back this week. But he likes Tom Hoagie this week, and Hoagie has some comments about this place is very special to him. He's taken his family here, obviously got his first PGA Tour win here, but he fits that mold of a guy that hits greens in regulation and can scramble and can putt. And that, I think, is probably the basis of what you want here at Pebble Beach. These are the smallest greens on tour, not necessarily Spyglass, but Pebble Beach is the smallest green surfaces on the PGA Tour. So obviously it takes some accuracy with your irons to land on these surfaces in regulation. And if you don't, you're going to miss some because they're so small. You've got to be able to get up and down. So you've got to be able to scramble well. And then, it's that Poa annua grass that we saw last week at Torrey Pines, and some guys really struggle with Poa annua. So you really have to have your putting game on, like Harris English did. Boy, he was making everything on Sunday. Thank goodness. My heart was going nuts watching that. But yeah, no, I don't think Hoagie's ever really a bad play at Pebble Beach. He's obviously has a win here, and I think the course really caters to his style of play.
Pebble Beach Pro-Am 2025. No Wednesday, Saturday, back to Thursday, Sunday. Par 72 yardage, 69.58. The fairway is yours, sir.
Yeah, short course. Pebble is just under 7,000 and Spyglass Hill is just over 7,000. I don't really take into account Spyglass much into my handicap. It's similar what you want out of Spyglass. It's a little bit more off the coast. It's just, you can almost see it from Pebble Beach. It's more back into the forest, a little bit more wooded, tree-lined fairways there, not as much coastal exposure. I grew up in the Bay Area, started out of college working in radio in San Francisco, and used to cover this tournament many, many years, take the short trip down to Carmel. Just one of the most gorgeous stretches of earth in the entire world. It's a fantastic place to be. And when the weather kicks up here, like it did last year, they had to stop the tournament, but you can get some pretty good breezes off that Carmel Bay, and Spyglass Hill a little bit more protected. But the majority of the handicap here is all Pebble because they play 75% of the golf tournament there. I mentioned greens in regulation. Of course, that is tied into strokes gained approach. Good drives gained, 6,900 yards. This course is not long at all. We've seen some bombers win here, but they're not pounding driver 350 yards off the tee. Some of these par fours are only 350 yards long. The most of the par fours here measure between 350 and 450. The par fives measure between 500 and 550. So, these bombers that are winning, anybody that's winning here, we've seen all kinds of players win here. The driving distance average at this course is much shorter than what it is normally on tour. I think normally on tour, the driving distance average is in the neighborhood of about 285 yards. Here, it's closer to like 265. So guys are dialing it down with irons and 3-woods and stuff like that. So it's not a course that you're looking to overpower, but you want, and the fairways are not necessarily narrow, but good drives gained. I just want good tee shots that find the short grass. So that's what I looked at here. Hole proximity from 75 to 150 yards. You're going to have all of your approach shots basically in that window. Par 4 scoring on the short par 4s, the par 5s, greens in regulation, and then, as I mentioned, scrambling. As far as the correlated courses, I used Silverado in Napa, where they have a Poa annua green surface. It's a blended surface, but a similar putting surface not too far away up in Napa. Again, a Northern California environment, and you see a lot of crossover success between Pebble and Napa. Also, another coastal location in Port Royal Golf Club, where they play the Bermuda Championship, has that coastal feel. And then the TPC Southwind, where we hit Matsuyama recently, very small greens at that course in Memphis, and the routing is similar. So they hold those two things in common. TPC Summerlin right here in Las Vegas, again, wide fairways, similar routing. We've seen crossover success. And then a couple of the courses they use in the Canadian Open rotation have a lot of crossover success. And that's Hamilton Golf and Country Club, where they played the Canadian Open last year and also in 2019. And then St. George's Golf and Country Club, where they played the Canadian Open in 2022. Rory McIlroy won, by the way, 2 of those Canadian Opens in 2019 and 2022. So, this course should, even though he doesn't play here too often, it should suit his eye. All right, you ready for the goods, the picks, Mr. Dawson?
The stage, the number 1 tee box is yours.
All right, very good. This guy, speaking of the Canadian Open, this guy jumped off the page at me this week when just at first glance, I was like, bang, I'm going that direction. And that's Taylor Pendrith. And I've seen him, I don't want to say I've seen him all over the place this week, but it feels like he's somewhat popular and his numbers come down at some of the sharper books I pay attention to. This guy was in the neighborhood of maybe 60-1, and now he's closer to 45 or 50-1. So it looks like he's taken some action. I was on him for Torrey Pines last year, and he finished top 10, and he just finished top 10 for the second year in a row. And so he seems to be just fine with the Poana greens. He hits a ton of greens in regulation. He's extremely good with the wedges from about 75 to 125 yards out, and he nails the par 4s and the par 5s. He's a bigger hitter. But again, he'll dial it down this week. He's had good success here at Pebble Beach as well with a top 10 in 2023. He's had 2 top 10 finishes at the Bermuda Championship and 2 top 10 finishes also right here at TPC Summerlin. So I think this guy, he got his first win on tour last summer at the CJ Cup, Byron Nelson. And, now a couple of good finishes at a big boy golf course like Torrey Pines. I think this guy's ready to really break out and become a top tier player in the world. And I wouldn't be surprised if it shows up this week. I don't know if he's going to win it, but I think he's definitely going to be in the mix. Taylor Pendrith on my list this week at 55-1. You might find him a little bit lower, but I think there's probably still some 50-1s out there at this point, and that number is just fine with me. Maverick McNeely is a guy I look to. I got him at 55-1. I think he can find 60, maybe even 65. But he's a guy I always look to at Pebble. He practically grew up on this course. His father is Scott McNeely, the founder of Sun Microsystems. Yes, the billionaire. And this guy, I think they have a house on Pebble Beach. He went to Stanford University. He's played this course 1,000 times, has finished 5th and runner-up here in the past. He's done well on all the correlated courses, including a runner-up finish at Silverado in Napa as well, and was also 7th last year at the Canadian Open at Hamilton Golf and Country Club. And like Taylor Pendrith, here's another guy who just got his first victory this past November at the RSM Classic in Sea Island, Georgia, which, oh, by the way, is a shorter coastal design. I didn't use it as a corollary, but it's similar in that sense. And McNeely's another guy that I think now with that first win, playing with more confidence, and now at a place that he knows like the back of his hand and has had success at before. So I like McNeely to have another good week this week. Tremendous putter, tremendous scrambler is Maverick McNeely. And then, Jeff, you may have been surprised when I sent you this pick. Viktor Hovland at 60-1. When was the last time we mentioned his name with anything positive to say about him? It's been a while. You remember a couple years ago, this guy was the hottest player in the world at the end of the season, won the FedEx Cup, and then decided to make swing changes and fire his swing coach and all this stuff. And he really hasn't shown up a whole lot ever since. But he just finished runner-up to our guy Matsuyama at TPC Southwind in Memphis in August. So that's a good sign. A runner-up finish, obviously a great week at a correlated course of ours. Viktor Hovland, showing up at least not too long ago. He's the 9th ranked player in the world, and we're looking at like 60-70-1 on this guy. And I just couldn't ignore that. Now, what really, not only has he had a couple of decent finishes as of late, but really what got my attention, he was 12th here when they had the U.S. Open, when Gary Woodland won the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach in 2019. Viktor Hovland finished 12th. In 2018, the year before that, he won first place, the U.S. Amateur at Pebble Beach. And in 2023, he finished 13th here. So here you've got a top 10 player in the world with a pretty crazy price at 60 plus to 1 on a golf course where he's had maybe more success than anywhere ever in his life. What a better place to get right, to find your game. And oh, by the way, 5 of Viktor Hovland's career wins have come on coastal location golf courses. So I just like the situation for him. I'm going to take a stab with him and see if I can get it right this week with Viktor Hovland. Robert McIntyre at 65 to 1. Won last summer the Canadian Open at, guess where, Hamilton Golf and Country Club. So I like that situation for him. I worry a little bit that he's never played here before. But you look at the forecast this week, it's basically the same at Pebble this time of year. Cloudy, overcast, chilly, a little bit of wind, maybe a little bit of rain. What a better spot in the world for a Scotsman like Robert McIntyre. I mean, it just feels like he's going to arrive at this place and go, this feels like home. And by the way, the Scottish Open, he's finished, one and runner up the last 2 years. So, I think it's that type of thing. The win at Hamilton in Canada. I think everything fits pretty well for Robert McIntyre, who I also expect to continue to flourish. This guy's really starting to come into his own with 2 wins in 2024. And I think he's going to have more things to say here in 2025. And maybe it starts right here at Pebble. Very good on the par 4s and the par 5s and a terrific short game. 14th on tour last year in scrambling and 35th in strokes gained putting. So I think he's really going to take a liking to this venue here this week. And then I had to go back to the guy from Belgium, Thomas Dietrich, at 110 to 1. And similar to McIntyre and Pendrith and McNeely, I have Dietrich as a guy that I think is going to finally get a win this year and a guy that's really been playing well. I mean, the only guy that hasn't been necessarily playing well as of late is Viktor Hovland. Everybody else in my card feels like a guy that is really going to make some noise. Recently got a first win. Dietrich doesn't have that win yet, but boy, has he been knocking on the door. He comes off of a 15th place finish at Torrey Pines, his second straight good finish there. Poana Greens, of course, they have in common there with Pebble. He was 4th here last year at Pebble, and who knows what would have happened if they would have played the final round on Sunday. When Wyndham Clark won here last year, that was cut to 54 holes because of weather, and it was Clark who went nuts and shot a 60 on that Saturday, and then they called the tournament, and no one really had a chance to do anything on Sunday, and Thomas Dietrich ended up finishing 4th. Who knows? He might have won the thing last year, but no shame in a 4th place finish. I like that. He's finished 12th at Silverado before, has a runner-up at the Bermuda Championship at Port Royal. He was 10th on tour last year in strokes gained putting, and last week at Pebble, he was 8th in the field for greens and regulations. So that's the card there. 5 guys, Taylor Pendrith, Maverick McNeely, Viktor Hovland, Robert McIntyre, and Thomas Dietrich at that magic number for us last week of 110 to 1.
And you play top 20s as well?
Yeah, I played all these guys for a top 20 finish. Let's see, Pendrith and Hovland were at plus 140. McNeely was at plus 150. McIntyre was at plus 175. And Dietrich was at 2 to 1. You might be able to find better numbers than that. Now, there's only 80 players in this field. So we're hoping, those prices aren't as juicy as they might normally be when you've got a field twice the size, but it also should be easier to cash a top 20. So hopefully these guys find their way into that portion of the leaderboard. And I played a couple of head-to-head matchups as well, full tournament head-to-head matchups. I took Robert McIntyre, Bobby Mack at minus 145 over Akshay Bhatia. And if you just look at the futures market here, does minus 145 correlate? You've got Bobby McIntyre at about 65 to 1 and Bhatia at about 95 to 1 to win this tournament. So that's not the reason I went there necessarily with this matchup. I really like Bobby Mack and not so much Bhatia, but quite a separation there in the futures board as well that I think kind of correlates with the price here in the matchup. And then This one was all about price for me. Justin Thomas at plus 105 over Colin Morikawa. I thought this match should be about a pick 'em. I mean, maybe Morikawa's minus 115, but for Morikawa or for Thomas to be a plus money underdog in what I think is about an evenly matched matchup, I thought that was good value there too. I could see either one of these guys playing well this week, but I kind of think Thomas might be better than Morikawa. Morikawa hardly ever plays here. You could argue that Thomas has been the hotter player as of late.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what Morikawa's got going for him as well is born and raised in California, went to Cal Berkeley, probably a little bit more familiar with that Poana surface. So, I mean, you can make arguments either way, but the price, Thomas at plus 105, to me, that felt off. So those are the two head-to-head matchups.
I'm going to circle back. I think it was last year, or it might even been 2 years ago. I had the question every week. Remember when Justin Thomas was leaking oil and his prices just kept getting higher, higher, and higher? And then every week I'm like, okay, are we digging in? Are we diving in?
Right.
The same with Victor Hovland. When you were
right, exactly.
Yeah. You were breaking down this course here, and you're talking about the 75 to 150s and the iron play. I mean, Victor Hovland screams to me on a course like this.
Absolutely. He is a consummate ball striker. And, that's one thing he hasn't really seemed to have lost in his game is being able to hit greens in regulation. And I think evidence of that is the runner-up finish at TPC Southwind in Memphis in August. That's another course that has very small greens. And Hovland was, hitting them on a regular basis and finished second to Matsuyama. So, and here's a place where he won the U.S. Amateur. And then followed that up with a 12th place finish in the U.S. Open and was 13th in 2023. So, as off as he's been here and there, he's also, finished runner-up at the PGA Championship last year at Valhalla. So he has shown up on occasion in a big way. And I figure what a better place to do it than this place where he's had tremendous success. And you're getting a price of, the lowest I've seen is 50 to 1, and the highest I've seen is 70 to 1. So I felt pretty good about 60. I got 60, and I don't know if I'd want to take a whole lot less, but I feel 60 is a pretty juicy number on Victor Hovland at Pebble Beach.
Last year at this time, I'm getting all lathered up because I'm heading to Vegas. I'm heading to your town for the Radio Row and the Super Bowl. This year in New Orleans, I will not be attending that. But I wanted to get a quick couple seconds before, we'll be talking next Wednesday, of course, about this. But your initial thought with some of the numbers that you're seeing, do you have anything in play already for the Super Bowl with Kansas City or Philly, or are you just feeling this thing out right now?
I'm still feeling it out. I don't have anything in play, but I can tell you the first thing I did was, look at my numbers, my postseason numbers and what they would translate to as far as the point spread. And they come out to Philadelphia as a 1-point favorite. Now, Jeff, there's not a whole lot of difference between a 1-point favorite and a 1 or 1.5 point underdog. It's still basically a pick 'em. You're still basically saying who's going to win the game. And Kansas City, it's understandable. Their numbers are not great. So it's understandable that Philadelphia comes out as a favorite when you crunch the numbers, because it seems like it's the second year in a row of exactly what we've seen out of the Kansas City Chiefs, where their regular season just looks extremely vanilla. They win by the skin of their teeth. Their numbers are not great. They look very pedestrian. They did not look great against the Houston Texans. And it's very odd. We don't see it often in our lifetime where a guy can flip the switch, quote unquote, flip the switch in the postseason. Can LeBron James do it? Maybe he's one of those guys, but it looks like Patrick Mahomes and maybe Andy Reid too seem to flip that switch, because that team that beat the Buffalo Bills, that was the best Chiefs team I've seen in maybe 2 years. Maybe it was the same Chiefs team that we saw in the Super Bowl, but even in the playoffs last year, they didn't look quite, it's not the same Chiefs and they're doing it differently. They're not the electric high-flying Chiefs when they had Tyreek Hill. They're doing it differently. But boy, did they look efficient at Buffalo with Hopkins, with Juju Smith-Schuster coming out of the woodwork and catching some big balls, with Worthy and with Hollywood Brown. The running game is not what it was, but they're plodding along and keeping drives alive. Mahomes doing it with his legs. The defense looks very solid. They made life very difficult for Buffalo. It was just an all-around, very efficient effort, I thought, out of Kansas City. Had the one blip, had the one turnover. Buffalo made a huge stop and then could not convert the fourth down. I thought that was basically the difference of the game. But it's hard to put a power rating on this team because their numbers all season long are not very good at all. And then you see this in the postseason and you're like, God, they're different. They're a different team. So that's what's difficult. It's hard to not, when it's a short price, less than a field goal, it's hard not to just say, well, of course, Andy Reid and Mahomes are going to win. On the other hand, I kind of feel like Philadelphia might be the better team. It's 6-1, half dozen the other. This is pretty tough. And I'm going to have to, get into the grind here. Once they tee off at Pebble Beach, I'll probably turn my focus to football and see if I can figure something out.
Everyone knows here to follow you on Twitter at Las Vegas Golfer. But as we always wrap up this segment, Brady, I'd like to tell you where they can find your written work and, of course, your schedule on Sports Grid.
Yeah, the article is up there at golf.com, going over the outrights here that we talked about in further detail if you want to check that out at golf.com. And then I'll be on Sports Grid a little bit later this evening, a couple of times, once at 7:30 with Joe Ranieri, and again on the grid with Gabe Morency and Cam Stewart at about 10:15 Eastern time. And that should do it. We'll roll into Thursday and watch the golf and hopefully see our guys populate at the top of the leaderboard.
Brady, always a blessing to have you here every Wednesday, 11:05 Eastern, 8:05 early in the morning in Las Vegas. Have a great, great day. Best of luck, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you, my friend.
Elijah, quick commercial break. When we come back, Mr. Tyler Wyatt. Stay tuned. It's comical, the difference of a 3-0 night and a sweep when you're grading them, and a 2-1. It stings. I'm grateful. If you can go 2-1 every day, I never leave the Bellagio presidential suite. Of course, Mr. Tyler Wyatt knows that, and I started bitching, yelling, screaming, and complaining last night when I didn't know who is this team. So before I get ahead of myself, let's bring him in, Mr. Tyler Wyatt. What's up, T?
What's happening, Jeff?
I'm going to tell you a quick funny story. I think it was 2 Fridays ago, Wisconsin traveled to UCLA, and I think that was the game. And I had the Wisconsin team total under. And they scored 15 buckets, Tyler, in the first half. 10 of them were three-pointers. They shot 10 for 15 from 3. And for the game, they shot over 50%. Of course, their team total goes over. We're 2-0. We have the Tennessee team total over 78 and a hook last night. I wanted to get in on the Tennessee side. I thought Kentucky would have a hair across their ass because they didn't want to lose 3 in a row. I thought it'd be a great pace game, and I thought Tennessee would find a way to win. And, of course, I didn't mind if they didn't cover. Played grab ass most of the first half, got to 33-30, and then the Wildcats came out second half on fire. But my point is this. Just think of this. Wisconsin shoots 10 for 15 10 days ago from 3. Tennessee shot 11 for 45. That means Wisconsin would have had to go 1 for 29 in the second half to match what Tennessee did last night. Who the hell were they? What were they thinking? I don't know that team.
Yeah, I caught a bit of the post game. Rick Barnes was, pretty upset with the defensive effort. One, it's a Kentucky team that can score. Third in college basketball going into last night in points per game. They were missing two key pieces. Lamont Butler, we knew was out. There was questions on whether or not Carr was going to try to make it. I was told by someone on the staff, I obviously can't say who. They said it would be a miracle if he finishes if he gets in the game, if he finishes. So I had doubts that he was even going to make it. He played 1 minute. We saw that he was probably somewhere around 70 or 80% maybe. So he was quickly out of the game. But Lamont Butler is the primary ball handler. The injury to Kerr Krissa a couple of weeks ago, they've been without both of their, going into day one, they were point guard 1, point guard, kind of 1B. Butler kind of emerged as the leader. Krissa did a lot of things really well defensively, but they were without a primary ball handler. We knew that Jackson Robinson was a capable ball handler. I was just concerned with his ability to facilitate. Kentucky got out. They built a lead early. Tennessee rallies, and then you kind of felt like Tennessee had control there going into the half. We actually played the second half Tennessee and took a bit. I was happy to take that loss. I'll light that money on fire with the Kentucky win there. Obviously, a little bit of a homer there, but I thought Tennessee in the second half had figured some things out. Zakai Ziegler going 1 of 11 from beyond the arc isn't going to help. This is a team that's not built to shoot anywhere in the neighborhood of 45 3-pointers. They are a team that is capable of hitting outside shots. Obviously, Chaz Lanier, the first half of the season, was on fire. He struggled pretty – the last 5 or 6 games, he's had 1 or 2 games in there where he looked like he was back in that first, half of the season form. But he's really struggled to find his shot. Zakai has been the leader. Going out with that ankle injury early, there was a sense of who was going to step up. They have a number of pieces. Milicic is a really, really good player. He doesn't need to lead this team in scoring. He doesn't need to lead. He's a guy that can go and get points when you need him. He's kind of a garbage guy. He's capable of stepping out and hitting an open three, but not a guy that you want to get a ton of volume out of. He played a solid game. He played well. But you have your two leaders. I think Zakai Ziegler is probably the best point guard overall in the SEC. Long-term pro outlook, probably not good because he's undersized. I think he'll get a chance in the G League. Ultimately, probably can make some money overseas. But him and Chaz Lanier are the two guys that you really look to not only score, but to kind of just run that offense. They have a number of other pieces. Dunbar is a capable guy. But this is just a team last night in Tennessee that looked like they had no identity. When they play well, the Auburn game was just a really ugly game from start to finish. It was officiated – in my opinion, it was officiated pretty poorly on both sides of the ball. The refs kind of interjected the whistle, and there was really never a lot of flow in that game. But you go back to that Mississippi State game when Tennessee is really, really good. One, their offense starts by their defense. They get a lot of points in transition, a lot of steals, a lot of turnovers, and they get up and down and can get pretty quick buckets. It was a Kentucky team that shot the ball so well last night. There weren't a lot of rebounds and transition plays. Tennessee really struggled to force just a ton of turnovers. Kentucky in that Vanderbilt game, last 4 minutes, I think it was the last 4 minutes. It was definitely under the 4 media timeout. They don't score. They had 3 straight possessions, 2 where Lamont Butler just hands it to a Vanderbilt guy at midcourt and another terrible pass on the third possession. They cleaned Mark Pope. I really had a lot of questions going. I thought this could have been a potential for Kentucky to go in one of those 4 or 5 game losing streaks. I had this one penciled as a loss. The number when it opened at 8.5, I had the number with a healthy Butler and a healthy Carr. I had this number around 6 in Knoxville. Adjust for those 2 guys, and I had this one around 8 or about where the number opened. We saw it get bet up to 10.5. I had no problem with where the market took that one. I did play it at 8.5 pregame, lost. Played the second half, lost. It was a big loss other than Kentucky getting the win. But yeah, this was just – it didn't look like this was a game. After seeing Kentucky's last 2 performances, you felt any confidence that they were going to win were to go to Knoxville and get the win. Tough Alabama team. Kentucky played pretty well there. You don't want to lose at home, obviously, but this is a conference where every night you're capable of getting beat by just about anyone, whether it's on the road or at home. They had a week off. I thought that would help going to Nashville. Really tricky gym if you've never been there. The sight lines are really bad. The court's 4 feet off the ground. The teams sit on the baselines. It's just and for a spectator, it's really bad too. There's columns. It's just an odd basketball arena. Historically, tough place to play. I thought with the week off, Kentucky would go there and gut out a win. Laid all the numbers there at Kentucky, lose there, and then I thought, okay, this is not good for the overall outlook of the rest of the conference schedule. Doesn't get any easier, night in, night out. You're not ever going to get a break. But I thought with a loss in Knoxville, this could have been, a 2 or 3 game skid could have easily turned into 5 or 6. And then you start to see, I don't know that you panic and say, oh, where tournament lives are at stake. But then you get into a position where, a week ago you were probably the first or second 3 seed till you go on a 5 or 6 game skid. Now you're in danger of falling down to the 5 line, and just a lot of things there. I thought it was going to be a tough place to get a win. They proved me wrong, but yeah, this was a Tennessee team had no identity. You don't see that often from Rick Barnes teams. Normally, one thing I question a lot of his in-game coaching, timeouts historically have left me puzzled. Not choosing to call them at times, choosing to call them at times that don't make sense. But what he has been able to do as a coach, even going back to Texas, was he could normally game plan pretty well. Defensively, you were never going to question, the effort from the team. Last night, there was no defensive effort. When you struggle to shoot, when you're shooting shots that you're not typically accustomed to shooting, which is, 45 of your just north of 60 field goal attempts are from beyond the arc. If you don't hit a lot of those, it's game over no matter who you play. Kentucky, efficient shooting night, big win. That's a marquee win. Another one for Mark Pope. Now, out of all of the 385 plus college basketball teams, Kentucky just behind Auburn now in wins against ranked opponents. So their tournament resume in terms of quad 1, quad 2 wins looks really good. So I think a bit of makeup there from the Alabama and Vanderbilt consecutive losses. It kind of atoned, a little bit for that last night. And your Tennessee now, Florida comes to town on Saturday. Another top team coming to Knoxville. Some questions there. If you're Tennessee, you can't really afford to go, on a skid here. This would be a 3-game skid for Rick Barnes, something that Tennessee's not, at least in the last 3 or 4 years, not been accustomed to. So yeah, big weekend, big game last night for Kentucky. I think just as big a game on Saturday here in Knoxville against Florida.
I was on the Sports Grid Monday, and my eyes are starting to do. They're honed in, and I'm a numbers guy. I read the market, but again, I do use the eye test in some situations. Sometimes gets me into trouble. I was sandwiched in between Coach Young and Cam Stewart, and my point is, Coach Young was on the opposite sides of both my plays, and that usually doesn't bode well. I thought Mickey Cronin and UCLA at USC would get it done and get their 4th win in a row. I like this team. I like the makeup. It's just a matter of can Cronin keep the team engaged and believing. And the second game, I'm going to be honest with you. I had Arizona money line. Now, of course, you chalk it up at a loss with 2.5 seconds left, and you get the 60-footer to get to overtime. But I want to tell you this, Tyler. Way, way, way back in the day, before internet, before cable, I used to watch my late night Pac-12 games on Thursday nights on USA Today, USA Network. I turned it on. And I saw Tyus Edney and the 2 O'Bannon brothers play for 5 minutes, and the light bulb went on, and I was like, there's no team in the country that's beaten this team. This is the best team. I thought I was watching Magic Johnson and the Lakers. That's how well they passed the ball. That was the year, of course, the opening round, Edney goes coast to coast for the layup, and the rest is history. I watched Iowa State against Arizona. They lost that game. The light bulb went on, Tyler. Am I crazy? I saw something in Iowa State. It's the first time all year this light bulb's come on. I can see this team cutting the nets down, Tyler.
Oh, yeah, they're definitely capable. Defensively, they're one of the most efficient teams, one of the best teams in pretty much every defensive metric. They're capable offensively. Team that I think wants to play most games in the upper 70s. Not too different from the majority of the Power Five or the better teams, at least top 25 teams. But yeah, they're well coached. They have a leader. I mean, they have all of the pieces. If you step back and look, they have the pieces that you need. They have a go-to guy if you need to get a bucket. They have good enough defense from the perimeter. You're not going to get a lot of easy buckets down low against this team. That was a one-off. I don't know. The analytics there on making the last free throw versus missing are marginal. Without the timeout, I prefer to miss. You hate to tell a kid when you're up 2, especially. You hate to tell a kid try to miss this one. One, because if he tries to miss it and he misses it really poorly, he throws it out of bounds, doesn't hit the rim. It's the same as scoring in the fact that you let them set up or at least throw the ball in bounds versus they got to get a rebound and have to think pretty quick. I prefer the miss there just because it hits the rim and there's no orchestration. Not that there was a lot of time in that game to orchestrate it wasn't a Leitner pass. It wasn't a deep one. It was just Love hits he could shoot that shot probably, I don't know, I give him 35 or 40 shots. Maybe I give him 20 and feel pretty good about my side of it. He hits a less than 5% shot and it goes to overtime and the rest is history there. I don't chalk that up to coaching. That was just one of those moments. Luckily it was in the regular season. It wasn't in a Sweet 16 or an Elite 8 game. This is an Arizona team who, the first 4 weeks-ish, first at least 8 or 10 games, looked like they were going to – this is a team that was preseason, national champion talk, preseason top 10. This was a team that was going to run away with, the conference. It was a team that was built to do it all. And they looked as lost as anyone, going into Christmas, going into the holidays. They've played a lot better the last couple of weeks. I bought a little Arizona. It's a small play, but this is an Arizona team that has as much talent as they're not going to – night in and night out, there aren't going to be many teams that have a talent edge here. Coaching edge, it's a well-coached team. They were lost. They seem to have found kind of some footing here. They're not going to be an easy out the rest of the way. This was a game that I think Iowa State will look back. TJ won't let this team sulk. They got to get ready. Another tough conference, night in, night out. You got to be focused. But this is one of those losses I think ultimately could help them, especially tournament type of atmosphere. Game that's down to they had control of that game. Arizona, clawed back and then put themselves in a position to extend it. So I think there's some positives that can be taken away from both teams there. But yeah, this is not one that's I think going to hurt Iowa State too much. It probably helps Arizona, a little more than it hurts Iowa State. And to your point, you don't want to be on Coach Young's. You don't be on the opposite side of Young too often. Very, very sharp guy. A guy I like to meet up with there in Vegas. A mutual friend of some of our mutuals. A lot of the Sports Grid family there. Yeah, you don't want to be on the opposite side of Coach too often.
Lastly, before we get into some selections that you might have for today or the upcoming weekend, life without Liam. Listen, I know once Liam comes back, he's going to try to walk through warm-ups tonight. They played DePaul, supposed to handle them, and then they got a weekend date with Marquette. I'm not seeing it. I think this team has regressed. I think some players that had the opportunity to step up have not stepped up. Seen some flashes here and there. I think Caravan, who was going to go into the draft, came back for a reason and hasn't had that year yet. And we know Coach Hurley, we know what they can do in the tournament. I'm not writing them off, but there's a team in there that is called St. John's right now that is cooking with Crisco, Rick Pitino. Thoughts on the Big East? Is it the John? I know Marquette's supposedly the team to beat right now. Is it the Johnnies though? Am I missing something here?
No, you're not missing anything. The conference is loaded. In my opinion, probably in my power rating, they're not far behind the second ranked conference in the Big Ten. This is a Big East number of bids. I don't keep up with bid projections. It doesn't affect what I do, but yeah, this is a conference they'll be well represented. St. John's maybe playing the best basketball right now. Connecticut, you can't count Connecticut out. Obviously, consecutive titles. It's a team that's not going to be left. But yeah, this is a conference that I think St. John's, Marquette, you mentioned. It's Creighton and Villanova have looked really good at times. But yeah, this is a conference. I think St. John's probably right now. It's an odd conference. You have the two highest draftable guys, at least, are on a team that'll be in the NIT or some other tournament. In Rutgers, Ace Bailey's if he was on any other team, probably he would be getting a ton of attention. It just seems like unless you live and breathe college basketball, you probably don't know much about that Rutgers roster. Connecticut will be fine. St. John's is the team I think right now. Marquette, it seems like every other game they're trailing by 8 or 10 points to someone that they shouldn't be, and then the last 4 or 5 minutes they come back and they end up. If you don't watch Marquette basketball, you just see they won another one by 7. Yeah, or they lose to a good team, and you blink and they're 24-6, and they're a 4 seed or a 3 seed. But yeah, this is a conference that'll be well represented. UConn's still my pick. That's not being a homer to you. I think they are the best team. They haven't played like the best team yet, but I think this is a situation maybe where we go back 2 years ago. I think they peak at the right time. This is a work in progress. They're getting healthier. That will certainly help them, in February and as they get into the conference tournament. But this is a team that I don't want to say that Hurley has adopted the Calipari mantra, but it's the regular season doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, as long as you win enough, obviously the higher the seed, the easier the path. But it's almost like some of the coaches are fine whether they're a 1, a 2, or a 3, maybe even or for a 4 seed, whatever. We want to, if we peak at the right time, it's worth maybe. I don't want to say that they're resting guys, that they've taken an NBA model into college basketball yet. It just seems like it's okay if we lose a couple here and there. We're going to be fine when the tournament comes. Tournament time, until Hurley proves us wrong and just loses an early game, going to be tough to bet against UConn, not only in the conference, but, in the big dance. They're here. It's creeping up on us now. It seems like it's, just a month or just over a month away. How fast, we were talking college basketball preview. It seemed like just a couple of days ago, but that's turned out, it's now over 2 months ago. But yeah, UConn still my pick to win the Big East. Marquette, St. John's, certainly capable. But yeah, I'll ride with Hurley until he bucks me off.
Elijah, quick second break. When we come back, we'll have Tyler Wyatt on the front stage if he has any selections for tonight or this weekend. Stay tuned. ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app. T, stage is yours. Any games tonight, total sides, anything coming up this weekend you got your eyes on?
Yeah, a couple games tonight. Auburn, I have almost 15, 14.9 number in that 12 and a half number opening. Alabama goes to Mississippi State, the hump, a really, really tough place to play. My number on that one is 1.9, so pretty far off of Mississippi State, short favorite there at home. I think Alabama gets a win there. And then St. Mary's at Santa Clara. I've got St. Mary's 1.7. It's a bit off the market in that one. Last game tonight, UNLV and Utah State. UNLV's been up and down. Utah State's been really, really good. They're inside the top 40 in my power ratings for the first time or second time this season. I've got Utah State 11.3, so a bit off market. Big Saturday. Every Saturday is a great slate. Auburn at Mississippi. This one could be tricky. I've got Auburn. It depends on, we talked a little bit last week about projecting where numbers will open. I thought odds makers would open Kansas very short favorite, despite having Houston almost a 3-point favorite. Got lucky in winning that one, but I had that, at least from a handicap perspective, it ended up being right. They opened Kansas small, flip-flops. Houston ends up 1.5 or 2 closing. Baylor, Kansas goes to Baylor. I have Baylor a favorite here. Kansas would be a big public play. I think Baylor is the right side. Another situation where I don't think Benson and crew at Circa, I don't think Metcalf, any of those guys will dare open Kansas a dog. I think we can get Baylor catching points here. I've got them favored. Tennessee number, I'll be interested to see where this one comes out. I have Tennessee 3.2. I think it opens higher than that. There's going to be some, the public will want to play Tennessee kind of in a revenge spot. You lose 2 in a row, third game at home. It'll be interesting to see. It's a Florida team that is, don't have to go back too far. 30, they could have won that game by 50 against Tennessee and Florida. BYU at Central Florida. It's a Central Florida team that has a number of really good wins. BYU's played some good basketball here the last couple of weeks. I have Central Florida a small favorite, 1.3. I think BYU opens about 2 or 2.5. I think there's some value there. And then Vandy played really, really good basketball. Tough game at Norman. I've got Oklahoma a 4-point favorite. I'd be interested to see where that number opens. I think Vanderbilt can play spoiler there. We'll wait and see where the market opens. And the last one, last couple of games, they go to Oklahoma State. I have this one almost a pick. I have Utah minus 0.1. I don't think we see Oklahoma State open as a favorite. I don't think they dare give Utah points on the road there. But if they do, we'll back Utah and the Utes. I think Utah's a really, really solid program. Oklahoma State having a little bit of a down year, but look for Utah to win there at Oklahoma State.
Well, it was funny. I'll close with this. The Kansas, everyone in the world on social media had Kansas over Houston, and they had the game obviously won, and they just puked it away and then lost in overtime. And I'm glad you brought up St. Mary's, Santa Clara. I was on Santa Clara over the weekend at Oregon State. I thought that number smelt the holy hell. Oregon State was only minus 2.5. My eyes aren't deceiving me. I love Santa Clara in the spot, especially after St. Mary's big win this weekend and last week. I think it's a perfect spot for Santa Clara here.
Yeah, obviously the win over Gonzaga, they prove that they're capable of beating anyone. But they're not a team that you want to play. They're going to have to do some things coming down the stretch if they want to make an NCAA tournament. They're going to have to do something pretty crazy. But night in and night out, they're a team you don't want to face. But yeah, you mentioned the Houston and Kansas game. The way I've ran on the poker table, I had aces cracked in back-to-back tournaments the other night. After making the money, stone bubble passes, get in the money, get it in with aces, lose to pocket sixes, lose to ace 5 of hearts. I deserve a little bit of, I'll take the Houston win. I didn't deserve that one, but you know what? I'm going to take it. If I ran anywhere like I do on college basketball on the Felt JD, it'd be over. It'd be retired. Alas, that's not how it works.
Well, make sure you tell your buddy, Mr. Chris Moneymaker, that JD from the East Coast said hello. Wishing you nothing but the best, Tyler, this weekend. We'll bring you back next Wednesday. Obviously, we'll recap what happened over the weekend, get your selections and recommendations for next week, and we'll get you a breakdown of the Super Bowl. How's that?
Look forward to it, JD.
Thank you so much. Tyler Wyatt, go follow him at Tyler Wyatt Bets, at Odds Culture. Elijah, quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll wrap it up. Stay tuned. Action-packed show as always. Got Elijah working overtime here. Shout out to Brady Kannon at Las Vegas Golfer. Sports Grid breaking down the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, the return of Scotty Scheffler. Elevated event, signature event. So going to be a great tournament. Tyler Wyatt, I could talk for hours. College hoops, the breakdowns, his numbers. That's what I've been doing this for a long time. I'm a numbers guy. I don't worry about the logo in the front or the name in the back. It's those numbers. And then, the way Tyler breaks them down at Odds Culture, it just is fascinating where, his actual number is 1.2 and the actual opening number is 4.8. And then there's your value right there because you don't get edges that often that size. So here I'm crunching numbers on team totals, and if we can get a 3.5, 4, we're in. Like last night, we went 2-1, as I said. We lost on Tennessee team total. We had Michigan State team total under 7.5 against Minnesota, and we had the Wake Forest team total under 67.5 at Louisville. No show tonight, no closing bell. I will, because a good friend, Mr. Kevin Goodrich, will be courtside. Celtics and Bulls. We get to watch warm-ups for the first hour courtside, and then the game tips off at 7:30. Tomorrow, 11 a.m., we're going to bring in Adam Trigger and talk some more college hoops there. Maybe see if Andy Powers is around to talk about them big, bad, losing Bruins. Friday, NCAA Insiders, college preview, baseball. Thank you again to Elijah Cox, and stay tuned.